everyone, it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and I'm going to show you how to make a proper cup of tea. Now you might think, well, we all know how to do that, but actually most people in the Western world don't. And what I'm going to show you is very prevalent in the Eastern part of the world. I'm talking cultures such as the Chinese culture, the Japanese culture, and they do a particular step with their tea that totally transforms it. When people come to my house, I usually serve tea for supper, or let's say an afternoon with an afternoon snack. They'll drink my peppermint tea or chamomile tea or whatever blend I have on hand. And most of them will say, why does this taste so smooth? There's no bitterness or aftertaste. You know, when you drink some peppermint tea, sometimes you get this bitterness in the back of your throat. It's not really nice, but it doesn't stop a lot of people from drinking it, but it's there. And they come here and they go, why does this taste so good? What is your secret? And really, it's kind of like washing your tea leaves beforehand. And it might sound really complicated, but in actual fact, it's such a simple step that it only adds really 1 minute, one extra minute to making your cup of tea. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a proper cup of tea. I'm going to show you how to make just like a one serving. So if you're at work or you're just having, you know, a tea yourself, then I'm going to make a big teapot because we're a family of 8. We all love drinking tea, and I'll make it a teapot that holds 1.5 gallons, and I'll do this on a bigger scale as well. So before we get started, I want to mention that I am also a fiction author. If you want to check out my books at the end of this video, you can also join my newsletter. I send out an email when I release a book. The email is at the end of this video. The other thing is all the links and the email address is in the description box below. So check that out. If you have any comments, please do so in the comment box below. So with herbology, it's such a big topic and you can get lost in it. So if you're new to herbs and wildcrafting, what I want to do is really break this down, because it's really hard to take you on a trip and wildcraft this particular herb or pull this root when you don't know what to do with it after, or how it tastes, or why are you even wildcrafting that particular one, and all these other things that go with it. So what I want to do is start everybody off with the basics. And just like with essential oil video that I posted a couple weeks ago, and I'll put that right up here, I want to go through the basics of some of the really critical techniques that you should have down pat, and then we'll go wildcrafting, because if you don't got the basics down, then you are going to get lost with all the other information that I'm going to share with you. So one of the biggest things is how to make a proper tea. And if you know how to make a proper tea, you will enjoy the herb that you will be wildcrafting so much more. Plus, you'll draw out more of the medicinal properties of the herb, and you'll start understanding what you should do with the particular herb that you wildcrafted or cut down right in your yard. What you need to be thinking about when you're making a tea is, are you using the aerial parts of the plant, or are you using the roots? And some of the seeds will also be bulked into what you do with the roots. So fenugreek, for example, is definitely a seed you want to do the same technique as with a root. Fennel, anise, aren't. You can do the same technique as I'm going to do for the aerial. Now the aerial part of the plant is the leaves, the flower, most of the time the stem, as long as it's green. So what I mean by that is you don't want to do this with, let's say, like a tree stem, something hard that actually has like a bark to it. What I'm talking about is like a dandelion stem, because most people are familiar with dandelions. They're green, they're soft, and that's what I mean with the aerial parts. Something hard like bark, like a root, lots of seeds. They're hard, and we're gonna make a decoction out of that, and I'm gonna save that for the next video. So in this video, we are just going to zone in to the aerial parts of the plant. So once again, the leaves, a soft stem, like a flower stem that's green, the flower heads, everything above that is really just that you can easily cut, that is green. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on. So let's make a proper cup of tea. What we're going to do is we are going to make an individual cup. So this is what I do when, especially when I'm homeschooling. I will grab my glass thermos here, and this has a double wall. So this will actually keep my tea hot for about an hour and a half. So when I'm teaching my children, I like to have this and hold it, so when it's minus 40 degrees Celsius outside, freezing cold, I'm homeschooling, I get a nice soothing tea while I teach my children. But I don't want to make a big pot of tea. So what you need is whatever, if you have a mug, if you're putting this in a mug, a thermos, whatever you're putting it into, you need that, and you just need a separate mug. I'm going to use these tea bags here. They are available on Amazon and many tea places. You can also use some metal strainer too as well, or you can also use a metal tea strainer as well. It totally is up to you on what you like. I really like these because anything fine doesn't seep into my liquid, and I'm not fishing anything out. The other thing is you'll need a spoon. The first thing you need to do is either boil some water on a stove or have a kettle, and I'm just going to turn on my kettle. Now, as the kettle heats up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these bags out, open it up just with my thumb. I like to stick my thumb in, and then what I like to do is just squeeze it over my thumb. What happens is it opens these tea bags up very nicely. So I have some wonderful chamomile tea here that we harvested last year, and there's nothing like your own harvested herbs. And what I'm going to do is just fill it up, and I'm going to do this over my container, so if I spill, it goes right back into my container and I just make less mess. I like a fairly strong tea, so I usually fill one of these tea bags right up for 2 cups of tea, because I like a lot of flavor. So just before I reach the top of my bag, what I like to do is I like to grab a little bit of stevia. Now, these are, say, 4 o'clock on them, but I was given some tea as a gift a long time ago, but I kept the containers. And I like these because sometimes, like stevia, I just need a little bit of the herb. So these are really handy in my kitchen. So what with stevia, I just grab a pinch because that's all I need as a sweetener. And I really use stevia quite a bit to sweeten my teas instead of honey or added sugar. I really like the herbal flavor of stevia. So stevia would be one of those that I did buy at the store. I buy very little herbs, but next year I plan on ordering some seeds and growing some stevia myself, as I did that many years ago, and it is delicious. Once you got the stevia in, you want to just pull on the string and it tightens it right up. Now that the hot water has boiled, this step changes everything. So you have your tea bag in your mug. Now what we want to do is we need to pour the hot water from the kettle here into our mug, and we're just going to dip it in for about 15 to 20 seconds. We're going to get this tea bag filled with this hot water. What it's going to do is going to release some of the flavor, yes, of the chamomile, but most importantly, it's going to release the bitter coating that covers all herbs. So when you have that bitter coating left on your herbs, your dried herbs, and this goes for dried or fresh herbs, it releases this bitter flavor. So when you put your tea bag into that hot water and you're dipping it in there for 15 to 20 seconds, a lot of people kind of panic because they go, hey, I'm gonna lose all my flavor. I see the chamomile, the color of the chamomile going into this water. And I'm going to dump out this water. We're not going to drink it. It's okay because it's very bitter. It's releasing all of those it's releasing that bitter coating that's protecting the leaf or the flower or the stem. And everything has that coating, and that's why we soak nuts and seeds, and that's why we like to soak our grains, is to get that coating off that is very bitter. And once, like, I don't like eating walnuts and just putting them into my mouth without them being soaked for 24 hours in water, hydrated, and then I'll eat them. And you'll notice the change. There's not that bitter aftertaste. Same with almonds, same with sunflower seeds, for example. And this is the same process. And the other thing is, it's a lot healthier for you because a lot of those coatings naturally actually pulls minerals and vitamins out of your body instead of putting them in. So this step not only makes things taste better, it also lets your body absorb more of the nutrients or the medicinal properties that are in your tea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my hot water right over my tea bag, and I'm only going to put about 1/4 cup in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it in just like that and do this for about 15 to 20 seconds. Make it all wet. Make sure that hot water is getting right into the herbs that you're using, and that's how simple it is. And now, after about 15-20 seconds, now what you want to do is grab the mug or thermos that you want to be using. I'm going to put my tea bag right in here, just like that. And then I'm going to pour fresh water over that tea bag. Now it's the steeping process. So I'm going to put my lid back on, and I'm just going to allow this to steep between 5 to 10 minutes. Now I usually do 10 minutes because I like my tea strong. And so that's what I'm going to do. If you like it a bit weaker, you could put less herbs for the proportion of water, or you just steep it less. And then you can reuse your tea bag probably once more after that. But I'm going to do this for 10 minutes. Now, if you like to go to Starbucks or Tim Hortons or whatever coffee shop and they don't do this, just ask for 2 cups of hot water. Ask for an additional cup of hot water. Sit down, dip your tea bag for 15 seconds in that hot water, then put it into the cup that they provide you, and you're done. So you can definitely do this very easily in an office setting or on the run. You just got to be aware of it, and once you start doing it, you'll realize how much better your tea tastes. So now that we did this on a small scale, let's do this on a bigger scale when you're making tea, let's say for company. So what I have here on my stove is I have a glass pot. Now you don't have to use a glass pot. You can use whatever pot you would like to use. I have a glass pot here that holds 1.5 gallons, and I have about 1 inch space on top, and I'm going to turn this on so it gets hot. So just to about where it's going to boil, and then I'm going to turn this pot off. The other thing is I have a second pot. It's just like having the mug that I did to dip my tea bag in first. This is going to be a second pot, and I'm also going to put that on high. So the key thing is with tea is that you want to reach this just to a boil. You don't want it to like having a roaring boil and waiting for it to just boil for like 2 or 3 minutes, having it on a boil. You just want to reach a boil, turn it off. Done. Same with this here. You want to reach it to it just would start boiling. All you want to do is have this really hot. That's about it. So let's get these pots hot, and then let's go to the next step. This is peppermint that we harvested from our patch grown here. It's absolutely gorgeous, and oh, I just love the smell. So I want 2 cups of this peppermint, and I'm just going to fill up my 2-cup measuring cup here. And you'll notice that I haven't broke it apart, like it's not really fine, because as soon as you rub it, you start releasing the flavor. So when I store it, I want to store it least amount of, I want to store it not broken up, so when I do use it, it's very flavorful. So I'm going to use 2 cups of this herb. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pot here that is now has just reached a boil, not quite, but it's very piping hot. So what I'm going to do is just lift the lid here, and you can see the steam, it's hot. I'm going to pour all of my herb into my water, and I'm just going to use my spoon here, and what I'm going to do is just mix it around. You want to do this for about 15 to 20 seconds as well, and you'll notice that the leaves will start to get soggy, right? If you take a look there, and don't be afraid that you're going to lose flavor here. Remember, the hot water shocks the leaves, and you remove that bitter coating of the leaves. So now that has done, now we need to get all this herb out of this water fast. I do this right over my sink. I have a strainer right here. What I do is I just kind of rotate my pot, get it moving, and then I dump all my herb into it, just like that. And the rest that's in the pot, I'm just going to use a spatula after, and I will get those in a moment. So you have your herb in your strainer, and what I'm going to do is just place that over my pot just like this. Now I have my bigger pot here ready to go. It is now also piping hot, but not at a steady boil. It's just nice and hot. And that's a big key thing. You do not want your tea in boiling water. You can have it up to the boiling point, but do not let it steep in continuous boiling water. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my herb strainer down on an angle, and I'm going to go underneath, and I'm going to put my herbs like that. That way no herbs get stuck. So I just go underneath and let all those herbs fall out. So now they're in the teapot, and I'm just going to get a spatula here, and I'm just going to put these herbs that were left in the other pot back into the one where I want all the flavoring to go in, because they kind of got stuck. Then what you want to do, I'm just going to mix this in just because, make sure they're all covered with water, looking good, and then you want to have this covered. Once you got this covered, again, you're going to steep for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now this is totally up to you. Again, I like my tea strong, so I'm going to steep this for 10 minutes. I'm not going to steep it longer for 10 minutes because the opposite can also happen. When you steep tea too long, it can become bitter. There's this like magical fine line. Some people like 2 minutes, some people like 5 minutes, some people like 10 minutes. try each one out. Totally depends on you, but I wouldn't go longer than 10 minutes. So as you can see here, is actually getting darker in color because peppermint tea gives that really rich green color. So I'm gonna let this steep for 10 minutes. Now let's take a look at my mug here. So what you want to do now that it's done, obviously open it up. And what you want to do is grab your tea bag out. Now I like to give it a squeeze because there's always leftover tea in that tea bag. I'm going to take it out. You can definitely just put it in the compost bucket. I just put it in a mug because that's what I had on hand because my compost bucket is way over there. But normally I just plop it into the compost bucket because it can definitely be composted. So because I added stevia into this chamomile tea, I don't need an added sweetener. This is the point where, hey, add some honey, add some sugar, whatever you like. But now you can totally enjoy this cup of tea. Oh my word. Chamomile tea, every time I smell it, it's so heavenly. I just love it. And I can drink it all the time. Chamomile tea is one of my favorites while I'm homeschooling. One, because it's so relaxing. Sometimes when you're teaching your children, and I teach 5 out of 6 of my children because my youngest is 2.5, there's so many grades. I mean, last year I did grade 8, I taught grade 6, I taught grade 4 and grade 2, all at the same time. And sometimes, you know, there's so much happening, you just need to hold your cup of tea just to relax as you're going through everybody's questions. It just helps to keep me very relaxed. Okay, so the tea is done. So what I have here is the same strainer I used when I poured the pot in to catch the herb, and I have a smaller size, so you can see the size difference right there. It's really important to have some really good strainers in the kitchen, lots of different sizes. So what I'm going to do is open the lid, and you can see it's still nice and hot, but you can definitely see the wonderful color. And if you guys could smell this whole room is smelling like peppermint, which is just absolutely awesome. So what I like to do is I like to go and just do an initial scoop with that strainer. And make sure that you allow the liquid to go through. I'm going to use the same spatula, and I'm just going to lightly press down. Just make sure I got all the liquid out. And then I have my compost bucket right here. And I'm just going to put that in. And I'm going to do that once more, just to catch the majority of the herbs. And I'll do it once more, again, catching some more there. Then what I'll do is I will set that aside, and I'm going to use my smaller strainer just to catch the other ones that kind of got away from the big strainer. The other thing is, when I'm doing this, I will also have this strainer that I'm using right here on top of a mug. So when I'm dishing my tea up, I'll go like this, and I will pour it in with a ladle, and I'll make sure that there's no extra floaties, is what everyone calls it, or leaves that go into the mug. It's just another strain, but for right now, you get as much as you can get, and there you go. Now you have your wonderful tea in the pot. I'm going to just put the lid on this just to keep it warm. And so now that I have this ready, supper is not going to be ready for another 2 hours. So what I want to do is I want to obviously keep this warm, and I'm just going to leave it on my stove, because we all know that it takes a little while for 1.5 gallons of hot water to cool off, completely cold. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. When I'm going to dish it up, this is where is so critical and where so many people go wrong. I have the tea made. What I want to do is just warm my pot up. I do not want to reach a boil. As soon as you reach a boil and you boil your already made tea, it changes the flavor to this disgusting bitterness. And let me tell you, it's not a good pot anymore. So what you want to do is just warm it up to where you like it, where it's, hot, but not piping hot to a boil. And this is so critical when you do this. So it's really simple to do, not that hard of techniques, but if you don't know about it, you just don't know about it. And now that you do know about it, try it and let me know, because I would love to know how your tea tastes now. So I'm going to enjoy my chamomile tea before supper, because I will dish this up for my entire family. And if you're wondering, 1.5 gallons of tea maybe will last 2 meals in my family, and that's why I like to make it on a big scale. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.